Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're pottering around in the garden. So the next job on the list was to start planting some of our plants out. Now the rough plan that we had was to use plants that we already had from our previous garden that we brought over with us. A lot of them we have just kept in pots, so it's easier to transport them. And now they're getting to the point where it's spring, things are starting to bud, things are starting to re-emerge. So we want to start getting them back into the ground. We're very lucky that we get to start from scratch. We basically have a completely bare area, so we can plan what we're doing without worrying about having to suppress grass or weeds, although they are a factor that may present issues later. So we do want to try and prepare for that as we're planning and planting things out. I think before we moved here, I presumed that we would be working on the veg plot sooner than the ornamental gardens. But due to where the tree trunks from the pine trees that we cut down have been left, that is actually going to have to wait. So our main focus for gardening at the minute is the ornamental side of things. We want to use nature as inspiration and have a meandering, kind of free-flowing, very relaxed, kind of almost whimsical feel to the ornamental gardens. That being said, we want to break down this area into small pockets, small gardens with intention. So each space that we create, we want to have an intention for that particular garden bed. So it turns out that I forgot to actually tell you guys what we put in the second bed that we made here. We were going with a bit of a colour theme in this particular bed, which was ranging from pinks right through to yellows, so sort of peaches and oranges would also be the colours that we would want in this bed. We were calling it our fruit salad bed because it would have the colour range of the fruit salad sweets. We didn't actually turn much of the soil here, which we have now since realised we probably should have done that. So that was a bit of a oversight on our side. But we did plan out quite a few things in this bed and they all seem to be thriving, which is great. So in this bed we have a twisted willow. We have a Photinia Pink Crispy, which has these lovely hues, a Forsythia, which at the time when we bought it was in full flower. Also have this Phormium Jester New Zealand Flax. We have a broom, we have an Iris Paprikash, we have an Ericium Wallflower here in the middle, yellow loosestrife here, I think this is Alexander variety. We have an Astilbe here, which should have these very sort of light pink hued flowers when they come up. Got a hosta just in the corner, and we also have some heathers that run along the front here as well, which should eventually spread out and take over a bit of the space. So we had a gravel delivery yesterday and unfortunately the battery on my camera went while we were spreading that out, but we basically filled this kind of social area with a finer gravel than what we had on the driveway. It just means that we have a clear open area that we can be social, have our table, barbecue, fire pit, that sort of thing, and it's just outside where the caravan is. The caravan is going to have cladding and a deck coming from it, so we knew we wanted to expand our social space because the decking was going to come out a little bit into that. So yeah, delighted to have this area set up and cleared now, and it just means that we've got a bit more hard standing for when we have social times in the summer.
We've also used the gravel to start doing some paths around the garden. We wanted something that was going to be a little bit more hard wearing than just wood chip. So we have got this finer gravel, and we have started to put some paths along where we want them around the ornamental garden here. And this means that we're just going to be able to have those defined areas. We can see more clearly where the beds are going to be, so we can start planting the beds up soon. We have also edged this gravel area with lavender and hostas. Now, this sort of area is probably going to be where we are going to have a little wildlife pond. So to try and deter mosquitoes, we're going to have a few plants and things to try and put them off going near the pond anyway. But also, because we're going to have our social area here, we have edged this area with lavender, which should deter mosquitoes as well, and we are looking at other plants that can deter them as well. I get bitten by mosquitoes so much in the summer if they're around, so obviously creating a habitat where they can appear is a risk, and it is something that we are going to have to try and work with planting, or with other things like citronella candles in the social area, that sort of thing. But yeah, we need to make sure that we have something in this area that's going to help deter them, and the lavender will look really pretty when it comes up and out into flower as well, and be very complementive with the hostas, of which we have quite a lot. So they were ideal for this area, and to just green up the edge of it as well. On the other side of the pots where the lavender and the hostas are, we have put a rough area of wildflower seeds, so hopefully they should come up and give a lovely kind of natural local wildflower feel to the area, and then the more ornamental beds will be on the other side of that. I've been a bit lax on the filming over the last sort of week or so because I've had an awful cold, and to be honest, Ross has been doing most of the outdoor work because it just wasn't great for me to be outside. Between that and the weather, it just keeps getting very cold and very wet. We had Storm Dave come through, so doing things outside wasn't really much of an option for us, but we have tried to press on with doing a few bits around the garden. When we first put gravel down, we used 4-inch down, which is quite a chunky gravel, to be the heavy base layer. And so we got a couple of loads of 804 gravel, which is finer, just to make it a little easier on the ankles and just easier to walk on in general. We've done the meandering path around where we found ourselves naturally walking, which tended to be the drier areas. And we've also put in a couple of little trenches and put larger pieces of the gravel in those trenches to help the water run off from parts of the garden where there was standing water. We've also started to place certain plants that we want in particular areas. So just behind me here we've got plants that we want in our Japanese style garden. Just over on the other side we've got a bit of what we keep calling a goth garden, where we're going to have very dark plants, very dark purples and blacks. And then in the middle area we're going to have a pond which Ross has started to dig into to lower the level. It's going to be a bit of a wildlife pond. We want to encourage sort of birds and insects and frogs and newts and things into the garden. So Ross has started to dig that, and we've started to put plants in that area that are going to have a more cottagey feel. So we are gradually getting there. It just takes a hell of a lot more time than you realise when you start these projects. So we're kind of chipping away, and it really is starting to feel a bit more like a garden rather than a garden centre, with having plants placed in certain areas. And we are considering where we are putting these plants, which area we want them to be in, how they're going to look alongside each other. We don't want too many trees too close to each other, but we do want them to kind of frame an area or to be a focal point in an area. So we are considering each area quite in depth and trying to be detail orientated with where things are placed, but we haven't quite got things in the ground yet. We do like to place things in pots roughly where we think they're going to go, and then those pots usually get moved around a little bit. We want to have a feel of where they're going to be, how they're going to be in situ compared to other things, and we want to make sure that we have the feel for that area that we really are trying to aim for. So we're hoping to achieve that. The land is still quite waterlogged. We've had ridiculous amounts of rain, and I know this is Ireland and you come to expect it, but even this year has been way more rain than I think even the Irish expect. So we are having to think about how the land copes with that and how we can cope with that. Because we've had heavy machinery on the land, the top layer of soil is very compacted, so we are having to break up that top layer to encourage the water to percolate through the soil a little bit more, and it has worked in the areas that we have done that. So we're hoping that once we do that and put more plants in the ground, those roots can then work their way through the soil and break it up even more. We can add organic matter to the top layer, which will eventually break down and help the clay soil become a bit more used to absorbing more water, and so hopefully it'll improve the soil as time goes on. Ross is doing a great job of digging our nature pond. It's important when doing a pond to dig different layers. So we've got a shallow layer here that Ross is just digging into now, and he's stood in the deeper layer. This will mean that it will create more habitat for different creatures, and hopefully it will mean that the pond won't freeze in the winter because it has the deeper section in it. while planting some of these plants out, we've had to break the soil up underneath them, as when we've dug into the soil there's just sitting water, which is going to do no good to the plants. We don't want the roots just sat in pools of water. It'll end up just rotting and the plants will die. So we're breaking up the soil underneath where we're putting the plants so that the water drains off. It'll loosen up the clay soil underneath that, and then that means that the plant won't be sat in water. So we have another bed planted up now. We've done what we're calling our little goth garden, where we're putting a lot of darker plants. It's going to be in a bit more of a shady area because we are putting a fence along here to differentiate between the ornamental gardens and the kind of vegetable garden allotment space. So in this garden we have got purple hebe, we've got a black elder which is looking a bit sorry for itself, but it will come back. We have some dark purple hellebores. We have a black mondo grass here. We have a red barbarous, which will come up and be kind of spiny with lots of little round leaves. And we have a big dark phormium black adder grass. So all of these things will be pretty dark. We are still going to be interplanting with other flowers as well, and probably some bulbs at some point, but it's great to get another bed finished. I did put a quick video of this on my Instagram page. I can't remember if I put it on my YouTube, but just wanted to give you a little update of our first willow fence that we planted. So I saw this image on Pinterest that I absolutely loved that has a tree stump with lots of nasturtiums growing out of it. And I thought it just looked so lovely and whimsical and just really, really bursting with life even after a tree has been cut down. I had planted some small spring bulbs in one of the tops of the tree stumps, and it came up and it looked really cute and lovely. It was really, really sweet. But obviously those spring bulbs have kind of moved on now. So I have asked Ross if he can potentially make a bit more of a hole in one or two of the other tree stumps so that I can plant some nasturtiums in them. So it's actually quite a tough thing to do because the tree stump where it's been cut off is not usually very even. And it's very hard. Like, we've left it quite a long time now and it's really, really hard. And it's also quite difficult to cut into because it splinters so quickly. So I think he's trying a couple of techniques using a chainsaw and maybe like a large drill piece to try and bore into the top of the tree stump. But I really hope he manages to do it because I think it would look really amazing to have these nasturtiums growing out of the top of a tree stump, and just give us another area that we can plant something in.
roughly where we're up to at the moment. Still plenty for us to be doing, lots of hard work to be done. It's great to be getting some plants into the ground finally. Like the beds that we have already done have really started to settle in and started to expand. And they have still got lots of space in them. That means we can plant up other things later in the season. So yeah, we're really pleased with how it's coming along. We feel like the path has really made the garden feel like a space that we can start to use, which is brilliant. The next step is to start constructing things like fencing, trellising, and some of those more permanent structures that are really going to shape the space and define it a bit more. So that is probably what we will be working on in the near future. But thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.